now that the script is attached to these, we can either open it up by double click on it here in the assets folder. We can double click here as well. Here is our new script. Excellent. So we've got a game controller one, we have an options one. So you're going to have a slightly different view, of course. I'm in Visual Studio here. I do recommend this if you do anything at home. It has a lot more powerful features than MonoDevelop. Okay, so start. Are we going to need this? So start triggers when you initialize, when you very first load the level. So I don't think we need to do anything. This is maybe something you could have when the level starts. Maybe they animate onto the screen. Maybe there's like a little animation you could play to bring them out of the camera view into camera view, something like that. I can't think of anything right now, so I'm going to remove it. Update, so this happens every frame, once per frame. Again, I can't think of any reason why, so I'm going to say let's get rid of him. We can bring them back at any time, just literally type it in, and there you go, I'll add it back in. So it's not like it's lost. Right. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to be able to mouse over the option, click, and have it selected as our selection or our choice. So we need to have a box collider on each sprite, so we'll just make sure that each one has its collider on it. So we're looking over here in the details, and we're looking for a box collider. If there isn't for any reason, we're just going to want to add component box collider. Actually, you know what? These want to be box collider 2Ds, in fact, because we're in two-dimensional. So let me just double check. Okay, let's get that 2D. That one's way too big. 9, that was good. And 8, 7, 6.5. That's good. And rock. So we've got box colliders on all three, and they are 2D. Excellent. So we can jump in the script now. First thing we're going to want is we're going to want a reference to the sprite renderer. So that is this component here, sprite renderer. It's where our actual image, our actual sprite is, but it's also where our color is. And what I'm thinking is we could essentially highlight it in green, as this is the one you have selected. Cool. So in code we can get a reference to that. I'll call it SR as sprite renderer. We're also going to want a reference to the game controller, which I like to call game controls. So what we've got here is public. That means we can access it inside Unity. This is obviously the thing, what it is, and this is the name that we call it. So game controller in this script is called game controls. Sprite renderer is called SR. Okay. So we now want to, when the mouse is clicked inside the collider, that's when we want to do stuff. So there is a function for that that's called on mouse down, and if you look there, there's a little tooltip that's popped up, and it says on mouse down is called when the user has pressed the mouse button while over the GUI element or collider. Obviously we have a collider on ours, and you'll notice I just got to press enter there and it auto filled it in for me. So this is a feature of Visual Studio. Again, another good reason why you might want to look into it. It sets it automatically as private for you. Basically nothing else except this script can access this. Void means there will be no output from this method. So this method will run and nothing will output. It's just something will happen inside, and that's it. And the something that we want to do, of course, is get the sprite renderer, which is called SR. So we literally just type the name of the sprite renderer, which is SR. And we just want to get the color, and you'll notice when we put the full stop in, we get the list of everything that we can have. So you can scroll through this with the arrow keys and just press enter to select. Or if you hover over it, it pops up a little tooltip again, and you can see it says rendering color for the sprite graphic. So color. So we want to set the color here to, I'm thinking green, to highlight that we've selected. So we can either create a new color by literally typing new color, and then we tell it the red, green, and blue values, or there's some preset ones. So we could do color dot, and here's a list. We can scroll through again with the arrow keys. Let's just try the green, the default green one for now. Okay, so the other thing we want to do is we want each sprite, so rock, paper, scissors, to have a number. So rock might be 0, paper 1, and scissors 2. And then we can send that, so we'll use a whole number, an integer. We'll make it public so that it's accessible inside Unity. And let's call it choice number. Okay. And what we want to do with the choice number is basically tell the game controller which number we have chosen, 0, 1, or 2. Then the game controller will do a random choice of the opponent's number, compare the results. So we need to go to the game controller now, and essentially we need to send this number to the game controller. So let's go and make a variable public so that it can be accessed everywhere, and int again because it's going to be a whole number, and we'll make this player choice. There we are. So save that, and now it will be available in here. So game controls, don't forget, is the name here that we set for the game controller. Dot, and what do we call it? Player choice. We could just scroll through this list, obviously. Again, this is everything we can access on the game controls, but we can do player choice. And we're going to set that to be equal to our choice, our number, like so. Cool. Okay, so I think for the moment that's kind of everything we can do there. So I think the best thing might be just to test here. So when you come back into Unity, it takes like a second to compile and render that in, and then we'll notice it pops up over here on the script. Here's our 3 public variables, so what we can do is just demo that to you. We'll put this here. We have choice, there's choice, sprite renderer, game controls, game controls. So whatever we write here that's public will appear here. If I wrote something private, it won't appear there. All right, cool. So choice number, so let's say the rock we'll leave as, we'll put as 1. Its sprite renderer is its own, so we can literally just drag itself into here. The game controller, now have we attached the game controller to anything? No, we haven't, so we need to add the game controller. I'm going to add it to the camera, just for easiness sake, we know where it is all the time. And we'll go back to rock, so the game controller is on the camera, so we'll drag that into there. Do the same for paper. We'll set that to 2. We'll use itself as the sprite renderer, and the camera is where the game controller is. And finally, number 3 for scissors, use itself as its sprite renderer, this one, and the camera is where the game controller is. Alright, they're all set up, so let's just test this. So this is sort of the reason why I have this view, so I can still move around, I can look around in the scene, and I can play the game down here. So if we click that, it's gone green. If we click that, it goes green. Click that, it goes green. If we also select the main camera, here we can see the game controller script. I'm still playing, and we can see that the number for the player's choice has updated to 1. If I click on the middle, it updates to 2. If I click on the scissors, it's now 3. So what we probably want to do is make it so that you can only have one selected, obviously. This is probably not the best method. Actually, you know what? We'll leave that. We'll come back to that. We'll get the basics of the game in place first. So we'll have the comparing of the two numbers, and then we'll come in and set these sort of tweaks up. Okay. All right. So this is all good. This is all working. We're obviously going to add some more to this shortly. Let's go to the game controller. So probably the easiest way to do this is we'll get the game controller to create a random number at the start of the game. So we'll do a new variable. We'll make it public so that we can see it in Unity again. It's pretty handy to be able to see these things. Actually, I'll show you another way we can do that. So the problem we have with making everything public is that it can be changed here. So I can make this any number I want, the player choice. But we don't want that. We want it to be between 1, 2, or 3. We want it to be one of those three numbers, nothing else. So what you can actually do is you can create what's called a serialized field, and then you can make this a private integer, and this will be the opponent choice, like so. Save that up, go back into Unity, let it compile, and you'll see here it is still. Cool.